The chillest dictator of all time. Because a lot of you guys in chat like to act like I am a dictator and I'm not. So I think this is good for all of us. We need to see really what I could be treating you guys like. Because I already kind of am a chill dictator around here. Let's see.
Tucked away in a corner of the world which hasn't been relevant in almost 200 years. It's a collection of over 100 islands just north of Madagascar, but 99% of its 100,000 odd people live on just 3. The vast majority on only Mahe, an island you can drive from tip to tip in less than an hour.
Tip to
Life
tip,
here
dude.
Seems easy. Per
Ludwig
person, it's the
and Michael
richest
Reeves'
African
next
nation,
challenge.
has the highest literacy rate in Africa.
I always wonder like how people even came to be on these islands. I don't know if that's just so uneducated of me to say, but this island is so small, so far away from land. How does it even start? I guess maybe so long ago when like, I don't even know. Like I just like, I don't get the pros of it. What's up? What's up, Wolf?
One of the lowest death rates and is the least
video? I
corrupt
know.
country on the continent. And on top of all that, you get to live here. It seems
Oh my
like an
God.
island paradise. Which makes
Fall
it
asleep
kind
while
of crazy
surfing,
to
end up
say
here.
that this was the result of a quite brutal dictatorship.
It's a white dude?
Modern Seychelles politics and its way of life have been defined by the visions of one man, at a time being one part socialist repressive state and one part tax haven, to be used by foreign banks as a playground
That's just
for
a bad combo.
millionaires.
That's just one of
The
those
man-
combos you don't love to see. A socialist tax haven. I don't know if that's how that's supposed to go. But it's annoying because I guarantee you they were not actually socialists. Like, I guarantee you they were socialist because it sounds good to say you're socialist, but then they really were just like the most evil capitalist, like maximum capitalist country. I'm not even anti-capitalist. I'm just saying like every country that says they are usually is just like trying to seem more chill than they are. So
Who Seychelles embodies was France Albert René. Since his violent takeover
Spaniard?
of the country in 1977, he's directly ruled for over half of independent history while
Damn.
his party stayed in
I was-
power until 2020.
Bro, COVID's what took him down, man.
Not typical
Damn.
of a dictator, he embraced the easy life, often being seen in a button-down shirt and expensive loafers, and never being afraid to take dodgy cash when needed. As a spoiler, Seychelles became rich through export abundance. Per
What's that mean?
person,
How?
they export the most things out of any African country.
How? The country is so small.
Around
I guess fish.
$22,000
Fish a
a
lot.
Seychelles. Most importantly,
Damn.
through tourism. A lot
that makes
of
sense.
tourism.
I didn't know that Seychelles was like a really messed up place, dude. I've always heard of Seychelles like the AAA or something. Like when I was a kid, my parents worked for AAA, and I feel like I just hear about Seychelles resorts.
But also
It's a really
things
good
like
name.
fishing and
Tropico
yacht
IRL. I
registration
guess he
of all
did.
things.
Yacht
It's this
registration.
bounty
I
of
guess that
cash
makes
which has
sense.
really allowed Seychelles to invest in the safety net which has made it famously
Interesting.
such a nice place to live. But let's back up a little. The islands were administered by the British for around 100.
Dude, that's so far away. Isn't Madagascar having like a crazy bad like military coup right now too? That's so close to Madagascar if I'm right on the map from what I see. I could be so off, man.
50
I'm American,
years.
please.
Seized from the French because they let too many pirates use it as a safe haven. It was then used, of course, as a slave-based plantation society. But since slavery was legally banned in the British Empire, it was indentured labor from freed African slaves, or Malagasy, Chinese, and Indian coolies.
Madagascar people are Madagasy? Wait, they're Madgassy. That's so fire. Wait, dude, that they probably get made fun of for that. Getting called Madgassy. I don't know if that's just actually a fucking cooked brain rot take, but like, why that seems like something get probably get made fun of for.
If you couldn't
gotta
already
be
tell
something.
by the pictures, or you're truly colorblind, congrats by the way, Seychelles is a very racially mixed country, and one which didn't
Seems
see
like it.
nearly the racial
W
divisions
Clips.
as most other
I didn't even
British
know what I said.
colonies. The dominant ethnic group, Creole, is a mix of many of these different groups. Put another way,
Creole?
all
Dude,
of
When I think of Creole, I think of like, I don't even want to talk. I really don't even want to talk, man. Because when I talk, it's always bad. It's always bad when I talk, man. I'm a dumb American. And every time I think something, I thought Creole was like a French thing. Is it not French? I thought that was like Louisiana. Like Bayou. Like a Creole accent. Like, Are they Creole? They don't look French.
These men are Creole.
I don't know.
But politically, the main event of importance before independence was his cotton economy completely crashing, half of all freed people leaving to Mauritius and rebuilding itself as a coconut, vanilla, and cinnamon export hub.
They're just exporting happiness. That's awesome.
Crop-based society for the rest of its British history. In fact, Rene himself was born into a family which administered a coconut plantation.
Farm.
His father wasn't part of the elite sect of society which owned the land. The leftover families from French colonization, the Grand Blanc.
Maybe I'm right. Maybe it is Creole. Vanilla is gold. I do like vanilla. Vanilla ice cream.
But part of a poorer white family.
Vanilla, honestly,
he grew to be resentful of these landowners, and this upbringing would certainly make a mark for how he would run his country. Then, like many other Seychellois, he went abroad to the UK for school, but never liked it, coming back to practice law before again returning to London to work in banking. While there, because he was fluent in French, he was sent off to Jersey to work in offshore banking. Jersey, along...
Wait, Jersey is... There's a Jersey in the United Kingdom because that's why it's called New Jersey. Oh my god, I've actually never thought about that. Because everyone knows about York, but there's this little shithole named Jersey in the UK. Of course there is. Of course there is, because there's a little shithole in America named New Jersey. They had to move it over.
With Guernsey,
dude, I actually had no idea.
Status, famously being stashes for Britain's mega rich to hide funds away from London authorities. This is another model he would replicate in Seychelles. When he finally came back from that, he became involved in politics, especially of...
Wait till you hear about New Mexico. All right, relax, buddy. All right. There's obviously no other place named Mexico.
African nationalism and decolonization, which, owing to Seychelles' small size and relative peace, it was quite late to. There, he faced his first challenge, James Mankham. Mankham, unlike Rene, loved the UK. His vision was staying a British colony for now and stacking bands through uninterrupted tourism and offshore banking. That part Rene agreed with. He also, to the point of his undoing, loved women. While president of Seychelles, somehow finding the time to judge the Miss World beauty pageant. Clergy members would broadly support Rene because of it, and the Western press never really treated him like a serious leader either. Mankham just always seemed to be on island time. In the last part of the colonial period, he led the Seychelles Democratic Party, while Rene formed the Seychelles People's United Party. This one pro-UK, pro-tourism, and conservative. The other pro-independence, anti-tourism, and socialist. There were three parliamentary elections during this period. Each and every one, Mankham won handsomely, despite having similar vote shares. It was a period which saw the development of an American satellite base, which grew to be the island's largest employer, as well as the opening of a brand new airport.
That looks so pretty.
Tourism boomed almost immediately when the island opened up to the outside world, and voters rewarded Mankham for it. So Rene, determined to lead his country to independence, became more militant, angry, and frankly fearful of Mankham. He took aid from the Organization of African Unity by portraying himself as the leader of a liberation organization, and would now support total war against reactionary elements, which ended up meaning a string of bombing attacks against the SDP.
How is he a chill dictator? This is not a chillest dictator ever. We're like 5 minutes and he's bombing people.
London didn't take this seriously, wanting to get rid of Seychelles after their east of Suez retreat.
Is this east of Suez?
I couldn't tell you.
Seychelles is east of Suez Canal region.
Mankham, as a result, earned money though. Some even from the CIA. In what they're calling the worst CIA-funded government ever, they gave him a few $100s a month and a 10-member intelligence force team.
Damn.
Anyways, after the last election...
I'm confused. The CIA gave the socialist dude? Or no, wait, this guy is This guy's the anti-socialist. The dictator dude is the
He
socialist.
decided to join a
I have no
coalition
media
government
literacy.
with Mankum, despite the fact that they absolutely couldn't stand each other. During this time, they
up,
jointly
Pickle?
negotiated independence. Yay! Lower the Union Jack, raise the Seychelles flag. Mankum would be president and Rene prime minister. But also during this
the hell is
time,
that
it was
difference?
increasingly clear to every
learning.
possible observer that Rene wanted to be in charge. He was gonna coup the government.
Coup
Pretty
d'etat.
obvious was his stockpile of weapons on a small island off of Mahe. But more, Mankum
It's so fucked, man. People can't just be happy, man. You got the fucking shit, and then you just stockpile a bunch
was
of
actually
AKs on the
warned
little
by the
island.
Kenyan government, a Saudi prince, a guy who was kicked out of Rene's coup, the UK police, and the CIA that one was coming. But for some reason, he ignored them.
Bro,
really,
he just-
the blame's on him. And while he was off in
Did
the
not
UK
care.
for Queen Elizabeth's Silver Jubilee on the night
Ooh.
of June 4th, 1977,
Queen Elizabeth,
it
25
happened.
rupees.
They seized the critical areas of Mahe the next morning, announcing that Rene was delighted the people chose him to be their leader.
That's just
Three
crazy.
people were killed during the coup,
That's
including
crazy.
one
Only 3 people
unarmed
died?
SDP leader. Mankum,
Damn.
of course, initially bragged that he was with a supermodel the night it happened, but more seriously
It's just so
blamed
cool.
the Soviets. But the Soviets had no idea what was going on. They blamed the Chinese, and the Chinese
Damn.
blamed the Soviets back.
Damn, bro.
The real culprit
Seychelles got some
was Tanzania,
drama.
whose Pan-African socialist leader
Interesting
Julius
mustache, bud.
Nyerere aided in training Rene's gangsters and providing weapons. It was one of the
What's up, C4?
craziest outcomes of the world's newest state. Having only 60,000 people at the time,
That's
it
so
would be like
small,
if
man.
Bermuda were to break out into a dictatorship today.
Mustache is crazy. That guy's
Rene
mustache.
was
Ooh.
obviously not tied to the socialist label. He was more Africanist, if that's a thing, but he ran an officially socialist government.
The white
he was more
dude
for
coming in as
development
an
and to keep a
Africanist.
distance from Western governments, which he absolutely
Yes.
hated, than any sort
Dude, he
of
hated the
advancement
Western
of
governments?
workers. His new constitution would only allow a single party to run, with presidential ballots now just being yes or no questions to see him in charge or not.
That's so funny though, man. It's like obviously fucked up, but it's so funny that like they had ballots where they just said yes or no and didn't it just didn't mean anything. It just literally like why even do the ballots? That's why it's so funny. Like they did that just to like seem like they're doing something.
And
yes,
not
right now we throw it
necessarily
away. What's up,
explicit
Phantom?
violence, but disappearing people would be a common use
Phantom?
of force to keep himself in charge. A senior SDP leader
That guy
and
looks
outspoken
swagged
critic
out.
of the regime, Hassan Ali, just vanished one day, only
Dude.
years later revealed to be killed in Rene's office. His wife had allegedly called Rene personally to ask him to investigate what happened to him. Of course, he didn't know anything, he told her. This was one of the most unique aspects of Rene's regime. Since it was such a small island,
Six
everyone
to
knew
what
everyone.
thousand?
Rene and his defense minister Ogilvy Berlui would personally
Ogilvy
involve
Berlui.
themselves
That's
in the
a cool-ass
investigations
name.
instead of
That's an
using
aura-fold
independent police
name.
forces. It was unlike other brutal regimes where a chain of command could depersonalize the leader from those being killed.
Some people in the past
It
were
would-
ugly, bro. I'm not saying I'm one to talk, but some people, bro, they catch me off guard. Some of these dictators, man, they ugly as fuck.
was very personal
I'm sorry.
here. In other cases, they were killed outside the country, most famously with the murder of Gérard Haro, shot dead on his
Gérard
doorstep
Haro.
in the United Kingdom. Other ways to control opposition
Kinda
were
looks like
mass
you, he does
arrests.
not
One
look
time,
like me.
21 SDP members were arrested together, some low-key torture, and by encouraging self-deportation through the
torture?
seizure of land and assets. Trying to
least they kept it
dismantle the
low-key, though.
Grand
It was pretty
Blanc
nice of
hold
them.
on land, he personally seized a La Digue villa.
Bro, that's so comically evil that he has a villa overlooking the island right across. He is not the chillest dictator, bro. He's like the most like comic book villain I've ever heard of.
Process. Another way
He
to
has a
control
villa
was with
just
the Seychelles
overlooking
Marketing
the island.
Board, a massive state
Ugh.
monopoly which controlled most consumer goods as well as imports. The National Workers' Union would be the one and only labor union in the country, banning all others.
Damn.
But development and construction weren't nationalized. They were often given to allies of the regime, like to the wealthy Savy family, which Rene was connected to via his ex-wife's ex-husband. Unsurprisingly as well, Mr. Contrarian wasn't a big fan of tourism.
Why?
Agriculture was sucked dry of labor once the airport opened, and people found it much easier to make money in hospitality.
I guess.
Rene wanted to boost it up again and maybe add industrial fishing.
America's so funny, so scared of communism and unions. I mean, unions, there's no excuse for it, right? Like, we have to have unions. That's just like, it's not even communism of unions, bro. It's just having workers agree, like, for working conditions. Like, it's not even that deep. Like, I'm sure there are some bad. Every time you bring up unions, like, oh, this one union siphoned money. Okay, then fucking obliterate that union, man. Like, let's regulate it. But, like, there still should exist. I don't understand. If they're stealing money from it, then yeah, obliterate them and put them all in prison who did that. But in general, the unions are still good. Union, like, it's just, communism is totally different. You can definitely debate that. I don't think communism exists for large countries. I don't think it even exists in the world right now. But it's just like, come on, we could get
to the mix too, to diversify away from tourism and become self-sufficient. This tuna canning plant was his pride and joy. He was so proud of it. That's his big plan. But by the end of the regime, Seychelles actually ended up importing more food than
of my money. It was low-key ass. I mean, sure, but I think you should have a choice between joining the union or not. And if you choose to not join the union, then you don't pay into it, but you don't get the benefits. There are benefits to unions if they work right. Like, but they should always be a choice. You should always be able to say, I don't want to join your union. If it's ever forced, then I think it's stupid. You should never be forced to join a union, but it should be totally free to do it. The fact that there's legal to like break up unions and stuff is so weird. Like, you aren't allowing workers to work together. His pride and joy was a tuna canning plant. Bro needs hobbies. True. I'm sorry. I'm hating.
And he just ended up accepting tourist dollars as the main source to build a safety net off of. Free education,
Classic.
Free healthcare, free transport, low-cost housing, decent infrastructure, and very much growing wages. Honestly, not a bad trade for letting foreigners get drunk on your beaches.
True.
One of his most controversial legacies, though, remains the National Youth Service. An integral part, in his eyes, of building socialism. It was a camp, like a summer camp, where every Seychellois youngster would be sent out of high school to learn the practical skills Rene wanted to boost, like animal husbandry and fishing, as well as to be indoctrinated into the regime. The idea was inspired, by the way, after a state trip to North Korea.
Oh my god,
remained
bro.
a close ally to Rene.
Of course it was.
And weapons along with East Germany and Cuba.
Super soldier, bro.
So as a result of Rene's economic legacy, even today, around 70% of Seychellois work for the government, where most production is found. But despite being genuinely popular in the islands because of the increasing quality of life, not everyone was enamored with Rene. 10,000 people left the island during his dictatorship, 15% of the population. Wow. His media censorship alienated the upper and middle classes. The national youth didn't like him, although they would end up voting for him later in their lives. The Americans didn't like him, the Soviets didn't like him,
dude,
and the South Africans particularly
didn't even have the socialists liking him.
Seychelles was of deep interest to the apartheid South African government, being the offshore financial center they used to avoid Western sanctions. They saw it as so important to the point of sending a mercenary to go and kill him when he threatened to cut ties with the country. 4 years after Rene's coup, a counter-coup led by Mad Mike Horay tried to bring Mankum back to power. They came disguised...
Am I just completely delusional? I didn't realize there's this many like British-looking white dudes in the middle of like this. Like, they're all holding coups. I didn't think that. I just didn't think that this was the demographic.
As a South African drinking club, the Ancient Order of Frost Blowers, but their weapons ended up being found in customs. After a shootout, the men hijacked an Air India flight and ran away back to South Africa.
Wait. Everyone pause. This looks like those like balloon animal When you have a blue animal and they make it into a poodle.
Nearly all of them were released without punishment.
Sorry.
Botched coup attempts also occurred in 1982 and 1987.
It really does,
both
though.
from internal security forces,
I'm
which
not ready
both
for that.
saw purges of his defense force after. When asked what he believed
Dude, he's
in,
tiny.
Rene answered that he was red on the outside.
Oh
but
my God,
green
he's a
on
little
the
guy. That
inside.
makes sense.
Perhaps nothing encapsulates this better than his
That makes so much
mafia-aligned
sense.
government. One of the key allies through his regime was Mario
Castaway.
Ricci, a guy expelled from Italy, Switzerland, and Somalia who ended up in
That's such a trio, man. Who are you? How are you getting expelled from Somalia? What do you do to get expelled from Somalia?
Seychelles.
Like,
Would you really be surprised if I told
out
you
of Somalia?
he
Like,
had
that's
some
crazy.
mob ties? Befriending Rene, they created the Joint Seychelles Trust Company, a state-owned enterprise which would organize foreign companies and investments, helping them deal with tax codes, bureaucracy, all that. It was essentially the state-owned vehicle for anybody to evade their law, including for
Hey, that's
money
fire,
laundering,
man.
drug trade proceeds, or just trying to avoid taxes.
these guys will love Bitcoin.
Which is why many people have given Seychelles
Born
the
too
label
early.
the world's only socialist tax haven. Victoria,
So weird.
a town of 20,000 people, held 8 major banks in it during Rene's
God.
day. And throughout this time, he worked with the infamous Gambino family.
I don't. Okay, maybe I'm uneducated in this. Why would you want to be a tax haven? Because what do you gain if they're coming here but they don't pay any taxes at all? Do you really gain from it? Is it just like they pay a fee, I guess, and you make some money? But like I guess it doesn't seem like it really is that helpful. Maybe I don't really know much about this.
gave
part, to be
mafia
honest.
members refuge,
Rick Ross?
as well as
Why is
used
he in
mafia
mafia?
muscles to, make his enemies sleep with the fishies. In 1995, Rene also passed the controversial Economic Development Act to let anybody who invested at least $10 million in the country be granted immunity to pretty much any foreign crime. This had to be revoked
10
5
million?
years later, though,
Yeah, that's
due to the
insane.
absolute international outrage it caused.
It's
By the
crazy. Just
90s,
$10 million.
after three-
And like, yeah, you can commit any crime you want here. $10 million. That's such a low price too. Like for all these people to just like that want to commit crimes and sell drugs and like all that shit, like that's so low.
Coups and the collapse of both
Selling
the
yourself too
Soviets
short.
and apartheid South Africa, Rene had the insight to no longer play both sides off each other, but join the Western liberal side. By his own accord, Rene had reversed his coup and state-led development strategy. That's right, he was done being a dictator, just like that.
Hey, he
Another new
reformed.
constitution was drafted to turn the country into a multi-party democracy.
Whoa.
Mencken made a party. This new guy, Wavel Ram Kalawan,
Dude,
who actually
Mencken came
lived under
back.
Rene,
It's
ran against his
crazy.
party 6 times before his big break in 2020. And then Rene's own coalition fractured. His defense minister
Dude.
and tourism/youth minister both making parties of their own. But all that didn't matter much. Every election Rene took part in, he won.
Damn,
One of the
bro.
major reasons he did
just-
this was to be able to take loans from the big
Cap-
3, the IMF, World Bank, and African Development Bank.
Just fucking
which
3
in the
goats in one
90s
room.
has some
Nightmare
pretty
blunt rotation,
strict
low key.
restrictions on lending you money without conditionality. Some of the general conditions were to become a democracy, slash the government budget, raise taxes, and privatize state-owned assets. Various waves of privatization hit Seychelles as the debt grew more and more unsustainable. Frankly, the longer he stayed
I'm
in
scared,
power,
holy
the
shit.
more his government resembled Mankham's original vision of Seychelles, a liberal, tourist-filled tax haven. It was also during this time they really hammered
Damn.
out the framework to let foreigners hide money here with a couple
Oh
of
my
acts.
God.
And let foreigners register yachts the cheapest in the world. 2 shady aspects of the current budget, which are a
$2,500 for a
legacy
yacht or to
of Rene's
register it?
personal views of money. In his quest against tourism, Rene did end up nationalizing 2 hotels, which were eventually sold not back to the original owners, but to a Malaysian firm instead. Foreign capitalists were still preferable to domestic enemies. 60% of his precious tuna cannery was sold to Heinz, ironically actually boosting profits to the government as productivity shot up. In fact, now Seychelles makes a ton of its money through the sale of its land to foreigners, which they can own 100% of. The outer islands are prime real estate for any unsatisfied billionaire.
Don't tell Epstein about this, but
crazy on.
I want to own part of the poodle, though.
Crazy.
Okay.
Rene stepped down in 2004 because, get this, my American audience, he thought he was too old at 68 to lead the country.
Oh my God, and he's right.
He did lead for 27 years straight after all. Let him at least live a little on the islands. The next 12 years were led by a Rene loyalist, James Michel, then succeeded for 4 years by Danny Foray, also a member of their party. On a timeline, here's Rene's rule, and here's his party's rule. It's no wonder then, especially
was really just
for
holding it all
such a
together.
small country, that Rene has come to completely dominate it. He only died in 2019. The same year much of the worst things came out about his regime via the Truth and Reconciliation Council. His two successors continue to do much of the same things as Democratic Rene, not Marxist Rene. Offshore finance, tourism, fishing, you know, keeping the moneymakers to keep the safety net. Because they're so tied to the ocean economy, they did lead some efforts to fight the Somali pirates back when that was a whole ordeal. And they've also guilted some more investment by threatening to dig up oil if someone doesn't invest green energy into the country. COVID and the financial crash were understandably big deals for a debt-ridden, tourist-based economy.
Yeah, that's pretty bad for them.
They made a stock market, a small one, but it's real. Oh,
Dude,
and the Americans are back after shutting their embassy down for 23 years. Pretty much only because of the increasing Chinese influence on the islands. But other than those,
proxy war,
most of the political story of the country is tied up in this one man. Rene was kind of like the left-wing version of Singapore's Lee Kuan Yew. Not a very ideological guy, but certainly convicted that he and only he should be in charge. Both ended up presiding over transformations of their countries in a benevolent dictator type of way into the richest in their respective regions. So my one last question to you is, why don't more people know about Rene when we all gawk over Lee? Duh, there's one obvious answer. There are no edits of him.
Oh shit. Oh, I thought he was gonna actually make a whole ass edit. I guess this is a whole ass edit, but I was thinking it was gonna be like a beat drop and it was gonna be nuts. Oh. Alright, that was a cool video. I learned something today, and I don't really think he was that chill. To be honest, he like bombed a bunch of people. He killed a bunch of people. Like, I feel like, I guess the chillest of the dictators maybe, but dude, he was fucking awful. He was not exactly the GOAT. I won't lie. He was not the GOAT. Anyways, that was a good video. Appreciate you for watching. If you guys are watching, like, subscribe. Peace out.